Welcome to the Happy Black Woman Podcast, where we're on a mission to empower women to transform their lives through personal development and entrepreneurship. We bring you all the information, inspiration, and motivation you need to create a life of happiness, success, and freedom. Now, please welcome your host, the happy Black woman herself, Rosetta Thurman.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Happy Black Woman Podcast. I am so excited to bring you our next guest. She is one of the most recent Happy Black Women I've met, and I met her out at Dr. Venus's Black Women Millionaires event in Atlanta. So if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that we were featuring some incredible women entrepreneurs, and she is another one that you're going to learn from today. I'm very pleased to bring to you this week Dr. Monikah Ogando. Welcome, Dr. Monikah.
Yay! Insert applause. Yay!
We got to get that audio in there. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. And, we have your bio, and it's the notes and all of that. I want to really give you a chance to share with us a little bit about you. What's your mission? What's your story? Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm so delighted to be part of this cadre of amazing women that you've been interviewing for the podcast. I'm just happy that you asked and happy to be here. So about my story, my first career out of college was as a financial planner. I was a stockbroker. My job was to attract and engage and retain high net worth clients that would, by nature of our relationship, trust me with their $1 million portfolios so that I can manage it for them. By the time that I got my feet up under me, when I started to get really used to my job and I was like, I should go for partnership and that kind of thing, the economy turned and we experienced what was called, the dot-com bust. Mm-hmm. But our goals, our sales objectives hadn't changed, so we had to shift the way that we were doing things. And I am very much a social experimenter. So when I was trying different things to continue to attract and engage and retain people, I was writing it down. And so I was writing down what was working, what wasn't working, what felt good to me, what didn't feel good to me, et cetera. And those notes later on became a program that my bosses loved and wanted me to teach across the nation. And I loved doing that. I had no idea that I was going to love it as much as I did. I've always kind of been a school teacher. When I was little, I sat my brother and my sister down and I was the teacher. And so,
me too. I had to be a teacher.
So when I was coming up for my performance review time, I thought I was going to, get kudos and pats behind my back because I was doing this amazing thing and I was going all over the country teaching other people how to elevate their relationships and deepen their commitment with their clients. But unbeknownst to me, 5 minutes before that meeting, somebody pulled me aside. Like you walk down cubicles and somebody pulls you into one of them. That's literally what happened. And the person said to me, I don't know if you already know this because you look kind of chipper, but they're about to fire you. And it was such a bomb. And I was like, why? I was so shocked. And I didn't even know if the person knew the reason, but this is the person delivering the information, so that's who I asked. And she was like, well, because you've been teaching, but you haven't really been doing the work, of actually getting clients in, et cetera. So they're going to use that as an excuse to fire you. So I didn't have much time to prepare, but at least I know what I was walking into. And they, in fact, yes, they were going to let me go. They even said the whole thing about the generous severance package and the whole thing, but they were going to keep my intellectual property. And that's where I kind of gave the Scooby-Doo face, like, what are you talking about? I didn't sign an intellectual property agreement. Now, for those of you that are listening that are in corporate America, I think you may know this. You may relate to this. When you first get hired, you have a packet of papers that you have to sign. The W-4 form and the confidentiality agreement and the this and the that. One of those was an intellectual property agreement that says that whatever I create under their employment would become their property. But I hadn't signed it. I've always been the kind of person, I'm like, child, I don't even know what I'm going to eat for breakfast. How would I know what I'm going to create 3 years from now or whatever? So I didn't sign it, and nobody checked on it, and it just stayed undone. And so when I told them that I didn't sign it, and they went to check my personnel file, sure enough, they found out that I hadn't, and now the negotiating table was turned around in my favor. And I got angry, Rosetta. I have to tell you that at that moment when all of that was happening, I could just feel my blood starting to boil because I was like, these MFers, they sent me to these places and now they're telling me that they don't need me, blah, blah, blah. Now, a little background. When I walked into that place, I was a week fresh off of a diagnosis of stage 4 cervical cancer. And I was still reeling from that. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Now these people are trying to fire me. That means I'm going to lose my insurance. So I had all these kinds of thoughts running through my head. And I just got mad. I was like, I hate this feeling of my life being up to somebody else's say-so. I hate it. So with all of that anger, I said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to pay me. And I just got really Pam Grier, badass. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to pay me. I don't want to work for you anymore as an employee, but what we can do is you can hire me as a consultant. I will continue to teach this that you obviously have wanted me to teach. And then as you use my program, you'll pay me a licensing fee and a royalty fee for any copyright derivatives. Now, for those lawyers out there, copyright derivative is anything that you use. If you create something out of what I created, you have to pay me for that, even though it's now a new thing. So sure enough, that's what happened. I negotiated a 6-figure check right then and there. When I went down to the accounting office, they asked me, who do you want the check to be made out to? And I froze for a second because I hadn't even thought of that. And I just very quickly said Ogando Associates because it was my name and it was Associates. It sounded big and professional and like I knew what the heck I was doing. So they said, okay, well, we can FedEx you the check or you can come pick it up on Friday. I said, I'll pick it up on Friday because I was still kind of in disbelief. I went home. I got online. I incorporated this new fangled Ogando Associates thing. I got an EIN and I went to the bank, opened a checking account so that on Friday when I picked up the check, I had somewhere to deposit it. And that's how I started my company.
I love it. I mean, this is, kind of the abbreviated version that I heard at the Black Women Millionaires event with Dr. Venus in Atlanta. And I have to tell you guys, it still is inspiring hearing it the second time because there's so many women in our Happy Black Woman community who have a similar story of that moment of getting fired, getting let go, downsized, however you want to say it, but then finding out that there is this freedom and entrepreneurship on the other side. And really afterwards seeing it as a blessing that they were let go because if you are given the choice to stay comfortable, most of us, tend to stay comfortable. So after this 6-figure check and starting your business accidentally, did you see it as a blessing? I mean, do you see it as a blessing? Yeah. I
see it as a blessing now. Back then I used to say that I was an accidental entrepreneur, but now I know it was no accident, because it really opened up the door for my purpose and opened up the door for me to save my own life because, like I said, at the time I was dealing with this cancer diagnosis and I didn't know what I was going to do. My daughter was 3 at the time. And the funny thing is that when I continued to teach these classes and the sales associates and the brokers that would come to the classes would also bring their clients, their entrepreneurial clients, because they wanted to it was kind of like a value add for them. And then these clients would come to me after class and say, oh, my God, I need you to come do this program for my sales team. I need you to come do this for, my executive team. Do you do management coaching? Do you do offsite retreats? And so that's how I got started with business coaching. It wasn't going to business coaching school. It was actually dealing with businesses in the trenches, consulting with them and training them, and coaching them. And I'm glad that nobody told me that there was actually a profession called coaching because had I known, I would have probably wanted a degree. I have two doctorate degrees. So I've always wanted, my PhD in psychology. I've always wanted to be Dr. Monikah. So that was a lifelong dream fulfilled. If somebody told me back then that they were certifying, curricula for this, I would have been like, oh, okay, let me just go to school for it. But the cancer thing was a pivot because it forced me to be sovereign. What I mean by that is it forced me to be my own authority. Doctors were saying that I only had about a year to live, that I better put my affairs in order, to spend as much time as possible with my child, that maybe this letting go of my company, letting go of my job was the best thing, and to, why are you starting something new now? You should just take the time to be with your family. So I was hearing it from all angles. I remember a spiritual mentor of mine, and this is another lesson, is to really get around people who are going to not just hold your feet to the fire, but hold you in your highest. And my spiritual mentor said to me, you're going to have to make a decision. I remember this as if it were yesterday. She said, you're going to have to make a decision. Do you want to live or do you want to die? Because the decisions and the things that you're going to have to consider when you're choosing to live are completely irrelevant if you're planning to die. You know, if you're planning to die and if you're expecting that, then there's no point in looking at what herbs will best suit your, you know, healing and how to eat so that you can heal yourself. That's irrelevant, right? And if you're planning to die, the things that you would look at when you're planning to live are also irrelevant. So if you're planning to live, why are you looking at estate plans? Why are you looking at funeral plots? Why are you looking at, you know, leaving a recorded message for your child, et cetera? That's irrelevant. And so I had to make that decision, and it was the best distinction that I could have made for myself. You know, there are some things that really are black and white in the world, and one of them is your orientation of what you're going to be focused on. So for me, that's what gave me the impetus to really pour myself into my company 100%. And let me tell you something. It sounds like a happy black woman story that I walked out there with a six-figure check, you know, and you can almost hear the Wonder Woman soundtrack in the background and my hair blowing in the wind. But it wasn't that pretty, you know. It was full of fear and doubt and, oh, my God, can I really do this? And what the hell am I doing? And I'm not cut out for this. I didn't go to school for this. I don't have an MBA. You know, nobody in my family taught me how to be an entrepreneur. I have entrepreneurs in my family, but it wasn't something that was like, here, let me show you the ropes, kiddo. You know, it wasn't like that. And so it was full of fear and missteps, you know, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I burned some bridges that then later I had to build with my bare hands, you know. And fast forward to 2008, I started this company in 2000. And fast forward to 2008, I was ranked as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States, Inc. 500 award, right? Oh, I was so proud, and oh my God, what an achievement. And I was like in the top 5 in my regional area. I was in South Florida. But it was also the worst financial year of my life. I lost a lot of money in the stock market. I lost a lot of money in contracts because everybody was experiencing a downturn.
Oh, yeah. 2008 is terrible.
Yeah. So I felt like a fraud, Rosetta. I was like, if these people only knew how broke I am right now and how much money I've lost, and they would be like, you know, snatch that thing right out from under me. Give me that thing back. You know? So that whole imposter syndrome, I was like, so when people come to me and they say, oh, you know, you don't know what I'm going through, I'm like, honey, have you had cancer and tried to build a company? I don't think so. You know? Right. So it really fills me with compassion when I deal with entrepreneurs who are either starting their businesses or growing their businesses, because I have been through the gauntlet as well. And so it fills me with compassion to be able to say, yeah, been there, done that too. Not just been there, done that with the success stories, been there, done that in the valley as well, you know.
I love it. I mean, you know, I love that you are so conscious about sharing the flip side of success, because a lot of the conversations that we have in our Happy Black Woman community, online, offline, are around how easy it looks when we look at the people that we look up to in business. They make it look easy. They always look fly. And you always got your purple on, and your hair is laid, and your makeup is on, and all of that. But it doesn't, everybody is not willing to share the underbelly side, the side of what happens when you're up at night at 3 in the morning and worrying about paying for your contractors or whatever it is because money didn't come in from a client or whatever. It is something that every successful entrepreneur goes through at some point. With success comes challenges. And so I'm so grateful that you're conscious of saying, yes, this happened, but wait a minute, let me tell you what was going on, because then we can accept it. And when it happens to us, we don't think, oh, it's just me or there's something wrong with me. It's normal. So tell us about what your typical day is now. I mean, you have gone through the cycles of entrepreneurship. It sounds like since 2000. What are you doing in your business now? What's your typical day like?
Well, let me preface that by saying that I've felt for a long time, I think maybe 2 years now, that I am in the middle of a rebirth. One of the things that I teach with my clients in the CEO Mastery methodology is that there are 7 domains of business mastery, and there are 4 stages of business growth, right? So the first stage is kind of like in childhood, you have the infancy and childhood. So you're kind of young, and, you know, your mommy and daddy still need to look at you constantly and afraid to leave you with a babysitter. That's the equivalent in business. Like, I'm afraid to hire an OBM, an online business manager, or my virtual assistant. Or I was like, no, I don't want to let go of my baby with anybody. And then you get to the adolescence, and it's like, okay, she can bathe herself and feed herself, and if I leave her alone in the house, nothing will burn down, hopefully. It depends on what kind of teenager she is. And that's kind of like in business, you've set up some structures, you've set up some systems, and things can pretty much run, you know, on itself. You've designed your brand, and things are solidifying. Then you have adulthood, which looks like now your business can feed you. Now your business can take care of you. Like right now I'm an adult and I'm taking care of my 84-year-old father. And so the tables have turned once again. Now I'm his caretaker instead of him being the caretaker for me. And then you have the legacy stage, which is tantamount to old age or retirement, or this is what businesses either go public or sell or, you know, do the employee divestment, stock options, et cetera. And I am at that stage now where it's not so much old age like the business is dying. It's more like a rebirth, because you can actually go through those 4 stages many, many, many times in your business. It's not just like a linear thing. And so a typical day for me is, or I should say a typical week, because I don't really have a typical day. So Mondays and Fridays are kind of like my bookend days. I don't schedule any calls, conferences, meetings, or anything like that on those days, except with my team. It's an internal day for me, Mondays and Fridays. And so those are the days when I do a lot of copy, when I write, when I do videos, when I check emails, when I, you know, respond to things. And I'm just kind of like getting myself in order. You know, it feels like when I start the week off with that, I feel way more prepared than just hitting the ground running. Yeah. And then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are the days when I do things like this, you know, when I do interviews, when I'm coaching, when I schedule, if I'm doing a speaking engagement, I give 90% preference to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The other 10% depends on how much you're paying me. And then I'll make an exception. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I'm typically resting. I am an introvert of the highest order. And what I mean
No way.
I really am. But let me tell you what it means, because people think introverts mean shy. And it's,
I know. I'm an extreme introvert. That's why I said no way, because I you. And I was like, I can't see it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I have learned is when you're on, and just be fully present with someone, be fully available, and just enjoy the moment. And then what ends up happening to me, Rosetta, is that after I've done all that, I'm super spent. I need to go lay down somewhere. I need to not talk to people. I need to don't turn the TV on. I don't want to hear music. I just want to breathe and hear oxygen.
You need to recharge. You need to recharge, and right. That's totally me. After speaking engagements, I like to run to my hotel room, put on jazz or room service, and chill.
Yeah.
I don't want to mingle. I don't want to network. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I have to allow for that, and then, as I'm sure you do too, but that's also like, I can feel my energy puttering when I'm doing that. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, the gas is running out, you know? So, yeah, I'm very conscious of my energy. I think that there's a book that I read a long time ago. I don't remember now who wrote it or the title of it, but it talks about how we are not really doing time management. We're doing energy management. And when you manage your energy, you're far more productive than when you manage your time. So that's my typical week. And then by the time that Monday comes around again, I am so ready, because I've literally forced myself not to do any business stuff. And so by the time that Monday comes along, business stuff and work stuff is my life purpose. So it feels like I've shut myself off from myself. So by the time that Monday comes around, I'm ready to get in it again. So I've found that really works for me.
Oh, that's great. We talk about time a lot in our Happy Black Woman community, time management. And when you talked about the stages of business growth, I mean, super valuable to the ladies who are listening at that stage. I mean, most of our ladies are at that first stage and launching their business and wanting to quit their full-time job. And so time management becomes huge. And so now we've got this new concept, ladies, around energy management. And whether you're an introvert or not, to really think about that. You know, when you come home wound up after work, really think about where the energy is going. So I remember right before I quit my job, it's like, you know what? And I didn't hate my job. It's just that you find yourself not going as hard as you would have if you're looking for a promotion. But if you're on your way out, there's no need to stress yourself out all day long. So I love that idea around energy management. So tell us, you know, you talked a lot about, you know, your story and challenges you've gone through in building your business. Now, you said that you're in a rebirth period. So where would you say you see yourself? You know, you've been doing business consulting and really doing it your way over the next 5 years as you reinvent yourself or realign yourself. Where do you see you and your business going in the next 5 years?
In terms of what I am teaching and what I am coaching on and delivering on, I see, and it's already happening. It's been a build-up wave, but I've been talking a lot about feminine leadership redefined, particularly with women in corporate that want to transition into entrepreneurship, or women who are in entrepreneurship that have reached a certain level of wealth, of abundance. They've already set up their brand. You know, they have a good idea of where they want to go, whether they're a startup or not. You know, sometimes that clarity comes really early. And so where I see myself really is talking about this feminine leadership, not from a place of like, be feminine and flowery and wear purple, but there's another side of feminine leadership that people don't talk about. You know, if you can just imagine, there are some ladies that may not have had children yet, but if you can just imagine the fierce warrior that comes out of a woman when she sees one of her children being threatened or in danger, and it's like, you know, you just have this incredible superhuman strength, incredible superhuman endurance and patience. You know, if you've ever had a child, when that child is crying and you don't know why and you want to sleep, somehow you have the patience of 3 Mother Teresas and you don't throw anybody up against the wall. It's like, wow, you actually did that, you know, and it comes from that level of love and commitment and wanting to care for your baby, your loved one. And so when you have that same level of abnegation for your business and for your mission, because it's not really your business is just a vehicle for your self-realization. It's a vehicle for your purpose to live through. And so when you can treat your business with the respect that the vehicle carrying your mission, your purpose deserves, you know, like kind of like the reverence that a father has with his baby mama. Like, you know, you're carrying my child. Like, I said, do you need to feed up? You know, do you need to eat? What do you need? So I am the kind of facilitator of that transition for women in leadership. To let's treat our missions, let's treat our purpose with the honor it deserves, because when you live fully in it, then you literally can change the world. And I've been witnessing that for so many years, and I'm just so honored. It feels kind of like a midwife role to be able to have people usher in that new level of sovereignty and of independence and freedom, but also self-direction and self-realization. It's awesome to watch.
I mean, I love that you said that you referenced business as a vehicle for self-actualization. I always love the Maslow hierarchy. You know, we've got our basic needs at the bottom, and then we've got like self-actualization at the top, and how few people reach that, but it's like something we're always chasing and wanting to attain. And I haven't heard a lot of people really talking about it in that way. I mean, that's how I think about it on a transcendent level, but it's like when you're first starting out, it's not the conversation people typically want to have. It's like, how do I make money, though? How do I?
No, and there's a time and a place for it. There's a time and a place for it, because it's hard to think about dreams when you're hungry. You know,
yes,
like, I need to eat. This is what I need.
Yeah. Well, it'd be
so that's why
very cool to see how that interacts. You got your business stages, your stages of business growth, and you got this piece. It sounds really exciting what's happening.
Thank you.
There.
Well, the spiritual part. I told you before when we met that one of my doctorates is in comparative religion. So I infuse a lot of spirituality in the work that I do as well. One of the things that I want to leave your audience with is you want to check out the Monomyth by Joseph Campbell. He talks about it in the book, The Hero with 1,000 Phases. And he talks about the hero's journey. And one of the things that is important to know about that is that it is not just the journey of a hero, like this is just Hercules, this isn't just Simba in The Lion King. It is a universal conversation, which is why he calls it a monomyth, because it is the only myth that's happening in terms of the development of a plot, of a story, of a character, of you. You know, if you were the character, the main character in the story, this is what would be happening for you. And so it's important for people in business to think about it, not from the point of view that you're the hero, but that your customer's your hero. And where do you fit into their hero's journey? But also to remember, when you look at this hero's journey, remember that at some point the hero does reach the pinnacle, but then he chooses to come back home. There's a point in the story where you're just at the pinnacle and you're like, this is great. Why do I need to go anywhere? Let me just stay here at the top of the mountain, you know? And when you're in business, you do go through that. You do go through, you know, this is great and I don't want to change anything. But eventually there's a stirring in your soul that says, no, you have to remember that you have to lift as you climb. You have to remember the paying it forward. You have to remember leave something behind. And so that's what I mean about being at that rebirth stage of my business, because I've hustled for myself. I've already gotten the awards. I've already gotten the multi-million-dollar business, story. And so now it's time to pay it forward. Now it's time to come back down the mountain and bring some people with you, you know?
No, I love it. I love it. So you just gave us a really wonderful book recommendation. I love the diversity of books that are recommended on the podcast. What would you say is your favorite book that has inspired you in your journey?
Well, you know, at different stages of my life, I would have answered that question differently. But right now, the one that is largely responsible for pivoting my life and deepening my spiritual rigor, I'll say rigor, is A Course in Miracles. I read it faithfully every day and have for the past 8 years or so. And if you ever go to the bookstore and you try to find this book, you will notice that it is literally of biblical proportions. It is almost as thick as a Bible, if not thicker. And,
it's a huge volume. So, I tried it once, I have to admit. I opened it and I closed it.
Well, let me tell you something. The first time that I bought myself a copy was in 2001, about 3 days before the 9/11 occurrences. And I didn't pick it back up because I was like, this is bullshit. Excuse my French. This is just, what kind of world do I live in that, you know, And I didn't know back then that it would have really been a source of comfort and gave me some kind of like reasoning in the world. You know, back then we were walking around like, what kind of world do we live in that this is happening? This is senseless. And so it gave me a lot of sense and order and rigor to approach my spirituality, not as some foo-foo, boo-boo stuff, but like there's a line. There's a line that you cross and a line that you don't cross. And if you're walking around in the world as a master instead of as a seeker all the time, then instead of doing this intellectual constipation thing, like, oh, it's just feeding and no output, then now you can actually be available for what wants to come through you. Yeah, that book changed my life. I highly recommend it. And that was also the experience that I had of starting it and putting it down because I couldn't handle it at some point.
Well, maybe this is for me. This recommendation may have been for me. Rosetta, it's time to pick it back up, right? So thank you for that. So we're going to add that to our Happy Black Woman book list. So, you know, we talk a lot about personal mantras here, too. I choose one, you know, every year. Usually it's a quote or a motto, a saying. Do you have a personal mantra that you live by that you could share with us?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. It may sound harsh, but it totally galvanizes me every time that I say it to myself. And that is, there is nobody coming. God sent you.
Oh.
And I say this to myself.
There is nobody coming. God sent you. Oh,
so, you know, sometimes... Well, you know, sometimes you want somebody else to do the workout.
Yeah.
You want somebody else to have the hard conversation, somebody else bring in the money, somebody else deal with this CRM, you know, the hard stuff, right? And it's like, how about you be the hero in the story? How about you be your own savior? How about you save the day? You know, you don your Wonder Woman outfit and put on your Wonder bracelets and fiend evil with your own strength and power, you know. So for me, it really galvanizes me to say, you know what, you've got this. You don't have to look outside for somebody to save you. You're not the damsel in distress. You're the damsel that's been called for. You're Esther. You've been called for such a time as this. So go do your job.
I love it. I'm going to add that to our personal mantra directory here. Great one. And you know, out of all your experience in business, because definitely we talk about three things the most: happiness, success, and freedom. And that piece around success and freedom typically revolves around entrepreneurship. And so for all of my ladies, most of them who are in the beginning stages of launching that business, doing what they love, and trying to figure out, you know, what they can be successful at, how they can create their own freedom. What's the number one tip you would give to them, you know, looking back out of everything that you've done and seen and experienced? What would you give our ladies who are just starting out?
Instead of making fear your enemy, make fear one of your trusted advisors. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. What do you mean make fear one of my trusted advisors? Well, the reason why it's so loud and so insistent is because it's trying to tell you something. And so there's no point. Sometimes when we say feel the fear and do it anyway, people hear that and say, well, let me just ignore my fear. And I think that's stupid. You know, I mean, there's a reason why fear is there. And I know all this, you know, motivational stuff about, you know, danger is real, but fear is a choice. It's like, yeah. But when you're trying to eat, when you're in survival mode, you don't have reason. You don't have logic. You have the emotional body. And that's where fear lives. So make friends instead of trying to fight the very thing that is going to be present all throughout your entrepreneurial journey. Like, it doesn't go away. You're just going to have to make friends with it. So I've done that. I've done that with my body. I've done that with fear, where I've kind of like sat down. And this is maybe a meditation exercise that people can try. You sit down in a chair and you put a chair in front of you as though you are speaking to, you know, insert blank, right? Your fear or your body or that client that you have a hard time with or whatever. In this case, choose to put your fear in there and see what she looks like. You know, is she like a scraggly old woman? Is she mad? Is she angry? Is she a scared little girl? Like, what does she look like? Because that has a lot to say about what you're confronting. Many times I've sat my fear across from me in a chair and I've said, what do you want to tell me? And like, look, I know that you think you're going on intuition, but this and this and this and this and this. And so all that fear wants to do, really, like all of us, is be heard. You don't have to agree. You don't have to understand. You don't even have to obey. I just want you to hear me. That's all. And so when I hear, feel the fear and do it anyway, that's what I hear. Like, just hear her out and then go do what you're going to do.
Wonderful tips for us all, even if we're not just starting out, because at every level of my business, there are different fears. I'm not afraid of the same stuff that I was afraid of 5 years ago. It's different fears now. So that's powerful. And so I could talk to you all day long. I know our ladies could listen to you all day long, and I have a feeling that this is not the last time we'll be sharing space together. Yeah. But in the meantime, how can we stay in touch with you? Do you have any resources that we can access from you, and where can we go?
Yeah. I would love to gift everybody my new book, Unlock Your Inner CEO. And you can find that at unlockyourinnerceo.com. And it talks about the internal shifts that you need to make and the external shifts that you need to make in order for that inner CEO to come out. And it's not just the CEO of your business. It's the CEO of your heart, of your body, of your life, of your relationships. Right. So when you are operating like that, you know, there's a certain swagger, there's a certain confidence, a certain clarity that a real CEO has, you know. And so when you are navigating the world with that level of confidence and clarity and certainty, then you can be a contribution. I'm using all my C words today.
Totally. I love them all. So tell us the website again. It's
unlockYourInnerCEO.com.
Okay, great. And we'll put the link on the website in the show notes. And so you ladies can go there and get Dr. Monikah's new book. I didn't even know you had a book, so I'm going to go there myself and download it. That is how you can stay in touch with her. And also on her main website, MonikahOgando.com. We'll put the link there, too, because I know this was just a little taste of all the wisdom that she has to share from her years of experience and just the intuition and the wisdom that she's been giving to us. There's so much more. So thank you for sharing with us.
You're so welcome.
Dr. Monikah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been a pleasure, and we're going to have to figure out how to talk again because we need a whole 3 days with you. I know.
That's right.
So,
I know. We need a retreat, Rosetta. We need a retreat.
I know. So this has been an amazing interview, and if you have not listened to the other interviews that we've done so far with amazing women in our Happy Black Woman community, you're going to want to go back, listen to previous episodes, download this one, listen to it when you need some inspiration, and make sure that you stay tuned for future episodes of the Happy Black Woman podcast. You can go to happyblackwomanpodcast.com and make sure you sign up and stay in the know for all of our upcoming shows. So I will see you all next time. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Happy Black Woman Podcast. If you want all the show notes from today's episode, go to happyblackwomanpodcast.com. Plus, we'll send you a copy of Rosetta's free life mapping workbook. We look forward to empowering you next time, and until then, do something this week that makes you happy.